Welcome on in, guys. Three bold takes again, and we are back with the ACC here in this series of picking four teams that could potentially win each conference heading into 2024. And like I mentioned, this is the last part of the series. If you haven't seen the other three parts, we did the SEC, we did the Big Ten, we did the Big 12. It's ACC time. And this one could get a little spicy. So, Chase, I want to pass it over to you first here. Who are your
Okay.
four teams in the ACC?
I wrote down four teams, and the first team I'm now reconsidering, but we're going to stick with it anyway. They had a lot of guys leave out this year. I'm going to go Florida State. I think a very strong team from last year. This is now with the Pac-12 being gone. I think this is by far and away probably the worst conference that there is. I think their top three are mediocre teams at best. Um, and I think if you look at them in a playoff picture type value, I don't think they're going to make a lot of noise compared to other conferences. I think the Big 12 has a lot tougher competition there, in my opinion. But anyway, number one is Florida State for me. I think what Mike Norvell is doing, he's consistently showing that he can build on a team and create value out of them. I want to see how he brings in more transfer portal guys this year and what he does with a lot of the losses that he had. He had a super senior heavy team this past year. So we're going to see how he does with some new, fresh talent on the team and see if they can keep that number one momentum in the ACC. Number two for me, this was a tough one. I almost went Louisville here, but I'm going to go NC State. NC State, if you watched our Big 12 video, NC State is kind of a Kansas State, kind of an Oklahoma State. They stick around, dude. They find a way to win some games that they shouldn't. In 2022, they had Devin Leary went to the ACC championship. Devin Leary leaves in the offseason to Kentucky. I'm expecting a barely bowl eligible team, maybe a 7-5 team. They come out and they finish 9-3, I believe it was 9-4, and finished a really strong season out without Devin Leary. So showed very, very good resiliency during the season. Number three for me is going to be Louisville. I love what they did last year, but is there a chance for Jeff Brom to have a sophomore slump? You come into your alma mater, get a good batch of transfers in, go to the ACC championship. Is this kind of a situation where you sink back down a little bit to where you should be? And is this maybe a Brian Kelly at LSU type deal where you had a really strong first season, had a good second season, but didn't get to where you were first year? So I got Jeff Brom in Louisville at three. There's an outside shot for me. And number four, gosh, I don't. This is where it kind of got weird. Kind of like Georgia Tech and what they're doing. I kind of like SMU. Hashtag that's a joke. Don't like North Carolina for this next year. I'm going to go Miami. I think you just got to give it to them. I think their recruiting is speaking for itself. But Mario Cristobal has to take what he can do in recruiting because he's an excellent recruiter. He's got to take that and put it on the field and let that talent display. And if so, I think Miami can be a very good team in a very weak conference. Quinn?
Yeah, my number one wasn't on your list at all, and that's Clemson. I think this is the I think this is the revenge tour season and the last gasp, last breath of the Dabo era of Clemson. Like
Okay.
20 years from now, when we look back on what was Dabo Sweeney's Clemson, this would kind of be like the last dance final run type deal of the Dabo Sweeney Clemson era will be this season. Now, do I think they'll win the national title? No, but I do think they'll be in the playoff, and I think they'll win the ACC. They're my number one team. My number two got a little bit of love from you, Chase, and that's the Miami Hurricanes. I think this year, the recruiting that Cristobal has put behind that team comes through. They were super young last year. It showed in a lot of mistakes they made late in games. I think those mistakes that cost them games last year will be invaluable in them not losing those tight games this season and making a much deeper run as a team. My
Right.
number three team is Florida State. I don't think Florida State's going to go anywhere as far as being a talented team. I just think there's going to be a bit of a drop off from what they were last year because they were so senior heavy. Um, and they do have to play Clemson and Miami. I think that's really going to hurt their ability to win the conference. But my number four team, my sleeper team, if you will, in the ACC is Virginia Tech. They
Oh,
ended the season super hot last year. And I think mixed with the transfer portal gets they've gotten and the lack of like transfer out, the recruiting class, the momentum they built at the end of 2023, I think that can be carried into a sneaky successful year for the Hokies. And who knows? I think out of anyone that isn't in the big three of the ACC, they got the best shot at anybody. I think Louisville takes a small step back. I think NC State they got ravaged, this year in the transfer portal. Like it was bad. So I think they need a year or two to rebuild. They'll be back, but they need a season or two.
Yeah.
And I think this is Virginia Tech's opportunity to kind of climb out of the shadows of the ACC, remind everybody Inner Sandman's a thing, and that the Hokies used to be a pretty good deal, get people excited, and then fall off in the middle of October. But I do think they'll be the number 4 team of the ACC.
Wow. Guys, if you did not watch the Big 12 video, the Virginia schools, hey, come on, West Virginia and Virginia Tech. I would love nothing more than Virginia Tech to be good in 2024. There's just something about those teams that were good, 10 years ago or whatever, becoming relevant again. There's just something about that 10 to 12 years ago that just means a lot. So it'd be really cool. My 4, honestly, this was not really that hard to me. I've got Florida State at 1. And again, my list is really no particular order on how they're going to finish. It's just the 4 who have the best chance to win the conference. So I've got FSU at 1. After a year that they had last year, I don't see why they would fall from 1 to 5 in the standings in the ACC. So they're going to stay up there. Quinn, you're exactly right. Clemson. I mean, Chase, you just completely gloss over Clemson, right? They did rattle off 5 or 6 wins in a row last year, won their bowl game. Quinn, I agree this is going to be a revenge tour for Dabo and the Clemson Tigers. That defense is still legit and will be for the foreseeable future, in my opinion. At number 3, I also have Miami. The past couple of years, man, it's been Miami's good. Like they're going to be there. Once these recruits, they've been recruiting well. Once they mature a little bit, watch out for Miami. It hasn't really happened yet, but I look for 2024 to be the year of the Miami Hurricanes in the ACC. And then at number 4, a team that played in the conference championship a year ago, and that's Louisville. I don't really see too big of a drop-off for them, especially with how bad the ACC is this year. I think they can finish in the top 4 easily. So that's my 4 in the ACC. Guys, I appreciate you watching and listening. Share to your friends, like, comment, subscribe. It's very much appreciated. Tell us where we're wrong. Tell us who you would add in the top 4 in the ACC, and we'll see you guys next week.